right, so let's go over this. This week's topic is cancer metabolic pathways. It's a really hot topic. A lot of people are talking about um, Jane McClellan's book called Starving. Wait, where is it? Yes, here we go. It's called How to Starve Cancer Without Starving Yourself. And she pretty much got the conversation started about off-label drugs to target different cancer metabolic pathways. And she has a certain diet that she followed, and it includes her story about overcoming her own cancer after having it a couple times, and her mom died of cancer. So it's an interesting read, her story, to hear personal details. Not everybody's interested in all that, but I found it interesting. It's kind of cool to get to know someone a little better, especially when you're reading their book. And then, as I mentioned before, Jody Ledley, she's a Square One mentor, and Square One is Chris Wark's at-home healing protocol. Chris Wark had stage 3C colon cancer. He had surgery. He also did IV vitamin C. He did a bunch of fasting, water fasting, juice fasting, and adopted a very potent anti-cancer diet. He also exercised, practiced forgiveness, wrote down all the people who had ever hurt him or he hurt them, and forgave them and asked for forgiveness. And it's a whole body, mind, spirit program, which I think is the best out there. It's really well researched and has been put into practice in people's lives, and people's lives have been changed from it. So I love Chris Wark and his Square One program, and I'm very grateful that we got to meet Jody Ledley through Chris's program. Her husband Casey had stage, I can't remember, I'll have to double check, but it's either stage 3, I believe it was stage 3, colorectal cancer, and he followed the Square One diet, and he is now cancer-free for 3 years. Yay, Jody and Casey. And so Jody is super smart and wonderful and so giving of her time. She's passionate about researching cancer, and her soft spot is colorectal cancer because of her husband's cancer. But she has put together many different charts about feeling cancer and targeting different pathways that cancer feeds off of. So I have a few things here of hers, different charts and things that I'm sure will encourage you and help you to become more educated about cancer pathways, what we can eat and take to, block off these cancer metabolic pathways. And I want to do something fun in every video. So I started a couple weeks ago, just to lighten up the mood. Laughter is the best medicine. Laughter has actually been shown to reduce anxiety and depression and boost your immunity. So I want to keep things light and fun as much as possible. Certainly not minimizing anybody's suffering, but if we're suffering, we might as well be able to laugh, right? That's one thing that got me through my cancer experiences. I had really tough days sometimes. I had surgery which totally paralyzed the right side of my face. I still have a little bit of residual paralysis, but mostly I have it back. But in a couple, the surgeries that I had, the surgeries that I had to this area, it affected my nerve, and so I had three surgeries that affected my smile, and so it looked kind of funny. I had a sideways laugh, and my brother had made fun of me once. He goes, ho, 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 like, what did you say? And I just had to laugh. Another time, I lost the bottom half of my ear. My dad was staying home with me the day or two after my last surgery, which was the worst one. I had the worst paralysis, and I thought I heard the mail truck come by, and I said, Dad, I think the mail is here. And he's like, no, I don't think so, but I'll go look. So he looks outside, he sees the mail is there, and he goes, oh, you have a good ear. I was like, ah! but it was really funny. We both laughed. We had a good laugh at that one because it's a really painful subject. But what can you do? Try to make the most of it. So, since every class is weekly, I just want to start by reviewing the stress class that we had last week. Stress suppresses your immune system. It can actually decrease, or it increases your risk of cancer. There's an enzyme that methylates estrogen. When you have adrenaline constantly running through your body, that enzyme is going to be focused on methylating your adrenaline, actually. And the methylated estrogen is a cancer preventing. And so if you don't have that, you're going to put yourself at greater risk of cancer. And some things that we can do to reduce stress: we can exercise, we can sing. I found this fun fact in Chris Wark's book: singing boosts your immunity and makes you less stressed. Social connection makes you feel less stressed when you're able to share your thoughts and your feelings with friends or family members. That's something that's really important. That's another factor in Dr. Kelly Turner's research on radical remission survivor cases. People had good connections with other people, embracing social support. So even if you find it hard to connect with other people, it's really important to try to do that so that you increase your chance of healing. For myself, I also talked about memorizing scripture from the Bible, which is something that helps me with my stress. When there's no other good reason to believe that good things are coming. When I was in college, I didn't know how to handle that. I called my mom every day crying, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I have classes and practices, and it's so stressful. I don't relate with anyone here on campus. What would have helped me then is trusting God and his promises that he's always there. He loves us unconditionally. He has good plans for us. Anything that happens in our lives, he promises to work it together for good to those who love him and are called according to his purposes, and that he's in control. So I did memorize. Hopefully, I'm letting you hold me accountable here to this because this is kind of related to stress, but I am technically my own boss, my own earthly boss. And this past Sunday, our pastor talked about firing your earthly boss because you really have a heavenly boss. And he mentioned in Colossians chapter 3, I think he referenced verses 17 to 24, yes. And so I wanted to memorize Colossians 3, 23 to 24. It says, now it's like brain freeze. Okay, whatever you do you work heartily as unto the Lord rather than men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. It is the Lord Christ whom you serve. And I muted everybody just for this recording, but I think hopefully I got that right. So anyway, and I've also found myself singing out loud more to reduce my stress, and I do feel happier. And I went through a pretty stressful morning recently, and I gotta worship the Lord because I read in Job chapter 1 recently to read about how Job dealt with his loss in his life. And the first thing that he did after he lost his family, he fell down and worshiped God. Like, his heart was so postured, geared toward worshiping God, that no matter what happened in his life, even if it was losing his family and his flocks, he first thing he did was, Lord, I trust you. You are my God, and you are good. And so I want to be more like that. All right. So now back to metabolic pathways for cancer. So as I mentioned before, Jay McClelland wrote this book, How to Starve Cancer, and it really got the conversation started about when dealing with cancer, not just to address it with diet and maybe exercise and sleeping more and reducing stress, but actually looking closer at cancer and how it thrives, and targeting different fuel lines to the cancer. And so here are some signaling pathways, ways that cancer is influenced. There's a I'm going to just read through first. Maybe I didn't structure this the best, but there are different pathways called hedgehog, WNT, beta-catenin, Notch, TLR4, TLR9, integrins, estrogen receptor, EGFR, IL-1, IL-6, and PPAR gamma. And the good news about this, well, okay, bad news, there are many different ways that cancer can get energy to continue to grow and metastasize and spread in the body. But the good news is that there are many food and natural sources, supplements, herbs that you can take to interfere with these pathways and stop the growth and the spread of cancer. So for the hedgehog pathway, I got this from Jane's book in the back, where it's the name of the chapter, I think it's chapter 10. No, chapter 21, Your Cancer Starving Cocktail. So it's around page 300. So I didn't go and look at all the peer-reviewed references for these. The references are in the book, but to target the hedgehog pathway, you can use berberine, metformin, and mebendazole. Berberine you can find it in supplement form. It's a plant product. Metformin is a pharmaceutical drug. People usually take it for diabetes, but you can get it. Some doctors will prescribe it off-label for treating cancer. Mebendazole is a human deworming agent, and you could also get that from a doctor who is willing to prescribe it to you. For the WNT beta-catenin pathway, you could take aspirin, I don't know how to say this, dipyridamole, niclosamide, NSAIDs, which are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, including aspirin, which you can get over the counter, and etodolac, which is I believe you need a prescription for that. Also, vitamin D3 can help target this pathway. The Notch pathway, you can take luteolin, sulforaphane, quercetin, and niclosamide. And luteolin is a natural plant compound. It's found in celery, thyme, green pepper, and chamomile. Sulforaphane is also found in plants, many different vegetables like cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, broccoli sprouts, cauliflower, I believe radishes contain sulforaphane. Quercetin you can either get in foods. I believe apples is a source of quercetin, as well as in supplement form. And niclosamide is, I'm pretty sure that's a pharmaceutical. For TLR4, berberine, again, natural supplement. LDN, which is low-dose naltrexone, that requires a doctor's prescription. For TLR9, also low-dose naltrexone. And fun fact from Jane's experience, and in her book, she wrote that when she took low-dose naltrexone, she actually experienced some relief of her lymphedema, which I had not heard before. All right, targeting integrins, maybe that D word, but she's not really sure. It's kind of taking a leap of faith there. There's not really any solid evidence to support that it would be helpful. To target estrogen receptors, you can take I3C, which is also in cruciferous vegetables. Melatonin you can get in supplement form, and metformin from your doctor. EGFR, take berberine, EGCG, which is found in green tea, and curcumin. Curcumin you can get in whole food form in the turmeric root, or you can get it in supplement form as well. Just make sure that you have a product that has good bioavailability. It may needs you could add. I met an Indian guy who is into liquid biopsies to test for cancer in the blood, and he said that as long as you have black pepper and some form of fat with the turmeric, then you don't need to, take a supplement. It will be absorbable just in that form. I'm trying to think of the supplements. Bioperine is one, absorbable curcumin, and Mariva, I believe, is another. So I'm sure you'll find it when you Google it. All right, targeting IL-1 and IL-6, you can take NSAIDs, again, aspirin, and the stronger NSAID, PPAR gamma, berberine, statins, even sometimes statins has been shown to be correlated with a lower incidence of cancer, hinoquiol, and ibuprofen. All right, so now on to Jody Ludley's wonderful pathways and all these things. This is her first chart that I'm going to show you, which you can find on her website, adventureswithjody.com. And so these are, include some of the pathways that Jane talks about, but a lot of these are, well, actually, a few of them are new. So Jody found some more plant compounds that help target cancer metabolic pathways. And this is good news because there are more things out there that Jane doesn't necessarily agree with using more of the plant sources of these compounds, but they're out there, so why not do it? All right, so we have artemisinin, curcumin, BSO is black seed oil, carrots, apigenin, I3C to target the WNT beta-catenin pathway. And I wrote out these slides just to give a different kind of visual. I think the chart is really cool. It can, it can be. I feel like just these slides break it up a little, easier if you want to just go through it that way. All right, so for PI3K, and really I feel like the pathways don't really matter that much as long as you're getting, in general, this whole foods, plant-based diet and taking a couple supplements. They're not exclusive, all these pathways or the foods that target them. Like you're gonna see EGCG, which is in green tea, in many of these lists. So EGCG is awesome. And if you take it, you're going to cover a lot of these pathways. Of course, you don't want to just try one thing and see if it covers all the pathways. The more you can add into your regimen, your diet, your supplements, the better chance you're going to have at really cutting off the supply of the cancer. And since I don't want to forget this, I'm going to show you now. I wanted to do something fun, as I mentioned before, and I thought to illustrate cancer and how it has many different pathways, things that fuel it. And when you look at a cancer cell, if you Google it, it has like these different tentacles. And so I imagine those as pathways. I wanted to get one of those squeezy balls that they look kind of furry almost, and they have like these like 100 tentacles on the outside. Usually they're like neon colors, but I didn't have one. So I drew this very simple cancer cell to try to illustrate that. And I wanted to, like, for example, let's say we cut off the WNT beta-catenin pathway. That could be that one right there. Oh, right there. So we're cutting off a leg of the cancer cell, right? Let's say, so you take artemisinin, curcumin, black seed oil, carrots, apigenin, and I3C. Well, you cut off a pathway there. So let's say this is PI3K. If you take ginger, or maybe they're just little pricks. Ginger, black seed oil, resveratrol, green tea, quercetin, fisetin, luteolin, apigenin, I3C, sulforaphane, ellagic acid, and curcumin. It's going to make that pretty weak, right? And so it's going to fall off. It's going to get cut off. Then we have P10. We target that by eating broccoli sprouts. That gets cut off. PPAR, you take curcumin, EGCG, resveratrol, beta-carotene, apigenin, lycopene, I3C. That one gets cut off. For targeting P53, we have berberine, apigenin, curcumin, EGCG, resveratrol, beta-carotene, I3C, sulforaphane, ginger, garlic, black seed oil. That's going to make that really weak. Then we have mTOR, eliminating animals, taking curcumin, EGCG, taking resveratrol, luteolin, apigenin, quercetin, I3C, berberine, black seed oil, garlic. You cut that one off. Then we have TGF-beta. So you take curcumin, EGCG, berberine, I3C, that one gets cut off. EGFR, EGCG, curcumin, and then we have other things. And you take all these foods that cut it off, and you're going to get this isolated cancer cell. Oop. This is an interesting setup. I should get something to hang this on the wall. Can you see it if I do that? Maybe I need an easel instead. And so this yesterday or the day before, I was thinking about this, and it reminded me of a story by Sherry Calbone. It's not a made-up story, but it's her true life story. I believe she suffered with chronic fatigue, and she was really suffering for a while, months, if not a year or more, when she was in her 20s, I believe, or maybe college age. And she heard about juicing and started juicing, drinking a lot of juice every day. And she also like had this crazy story where people beat her up, and like it was horrible, and she was like really struggling a lot. So she started juicing, and one day in the toilet came out this blue tumor that had tentacles like those, but it was like they were chopped off. She's like, it was like God took scissors and cut off those blood vessels to the cancer cells or to the tumor. And so that's like what I thought about with all these plant foods and targeting the different pathways. You could literally like cut off the supply, the blood supply to, or the fuel supply to cancer cells and tumors, and you could have something like that happen. Crazy. I mean, I haven't heard that story a lot, you know, where you literally like either cough up or something falls out of your nose or downstairs. But it's possible. It's happened before. It could happen again. All right, so here are more specifics. I'm going to show you some charts of Jody's. These are the cancer fuel sources. All right, so we have an adapted metro map. So Jay McClelland has her own metro map of how to target the different pathways to feed cancer. Let me just grab that real quick. So here is her basic map. So we have cancer thriving on carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, all three macronutrients that we get in our diet. And you know, when you eat fat, you produce cholesterol. When you eat carbs, your body metabolizes it into glucose, and when you eat protein, it gets broken down into nucleosides. That's like really, really small. And then she has these different substances that you can use to target or cut off those fuel lines. Like for protein, dipyridamole. That's what she took for that, to lower her cholesterol. cut off the fat supply. She took statins, and then for carbohydrates, she took metformin and berberine. And so Jody has added to that, quite significantly to make this chart, which is awesome. And so it lists carbohydrates, glucose, fatty acids for fat, glutamine for protein sources, and there are all these different metabolic pathways which fuel those cancer in those ways, and then also the natural plants that you can use to target them. So these are glutamine pathways, IGF-1, glutamine oxphos, mTOR, macropinocytosis, nucleoside salvage, glutaminolysis, taking out animal protein stops. If you eliminate glutamine in the diet, then your cancer can't feed off of glutamine. And glutamine is actually, there's actually a scanner, kind of like a PET scan. You know how PET scans, you inject radioactive sugar into the body to see where the cancer is feeding, because cancer takes up more sugar than normal cells. And that's how you can see where you have tumors on a PET scan. There are scans that use glutamine in a similar way to sugar. So you inject radioactive glutamine and it will show you where you have cancer. So, fun fact. I don't know if they're actually using them in practice, but they're invented at least. So you could target these different glutamine pathways with eliminating animal foods, taking black seed oil, garlic, I3C, berberine, burdock, dandelion, curcumin, EGCG, resveratrol, pigeonin, let's see, quercetin, artemisinin, resveratrol, I3C, burdock. And you see some of these repeated over again, ursolic acid. So to target glucose pathways here, right there, we are targeting GLUT1, insulin, the PEP pathway, glucose, oxphos, and aerobic glycolysis, again with many of the same foods, vitamin C, I3C, berberine, burdock, quercetin, dandelion, black seed oil, garlic, curcumin, EGCG, resveratrol, luteolin, beta-carotene, and apigenin. Again, luteolin is in celery, thyme, green pepper, and chamomile. Apigenin is found in celery, parsley, and chamomile. And fisetin, is that on there yet? Fisetin is actually at the bottom. Fisetin is found in strawberries mostly, or strawberries have the highest amount of fisetin in them, as well as, then apples come after that. All right, so we're down to about beta-carotene. Beta-carotene is in orange vegetables and fruits, but also in green vegetables and fruits as well, which I didn't realize. But it kind of makes sense because you can drink green juice and still get kind of an orangey color. All right, vitamin C, burdock, dandelion, pigeon, and genistein, which is found in soy products, foods. And that's about it. Curcumin, luteolin. All right, so fatty acid pathways. Whoops, I didn't finish that one, but I started. So we have here fatty acid. So acetate, ACLY, FAS is fatty acid synthesis, I believe, FAO, fatty acid oxidation, SREBP1, mevalonate, SREB2. So we have Garcinia, cinnamon, which is a new one, luteolin, EGCG, quercetin, apigenin, cinnamon, camphorol, which is in carrots, citrus, fruits, any other flavonoids, berberine, curcumin, quercetin, EGCG. Then we have anti-angiogenic foods. These are foods which help prevent the metastasis of cancer. So angiogenesis is the growth of blood vessels. And where is this? Okay, these are at the top of this chart. Right up there. So we have black and green tea combined, red grapes, citrus, garlic, genistein, curcumin, pau d'arco tea, berries, and celery. And then we have, these are foods that kill cancer stem cells, and cancer stem cells are the ones that are responsible for metastasis and cancer spreading throughout the body. These induce apoptosis. Apoptosis is programmed cell death. So these actually cause cancer cell death. Hooray! Curcumin, ellagic acid, e.g. CG in green tea, quercetin, resveratrol, lycopene in tomatoes, apigenin, burdock root, falcarinol, dandelion, I3C, artemisinin, which usually is taken in tincture form, berberine, sulforaphane, garlic, fisetin, black seed oil, capsaicin, which is found in chili peppers, and vitamin C. Awesome! Knowledge and power. Oh, I should put this slide before the last one, but these are other fuel sources for cancer, and they're mostly found in animal products. Methionine, it's also found in beans, but in a much lower amount. Asparagine, leucine, arginine, valine, animal protein, and heme iron. Heme iron is, it's a more absorbable form of iron compared to non-heme iron, which is found in plants, but heme iron is found in meats like beef. All right, so there's a guy, Joe Tippins. He had he was in a clinical trial for his cancer, and he also took fenbendazole to because he had heard that it could help with cancer, and he took it, and he was the only person who survived his cancer who was in that trial. And so he started sharing his story. A lot of people have become excited about it, but again, Jody, being the awesome researcher that she is, she has followed that closely and found, she writes about this in one of our articles, that 3 people in 1 week found out that their cancer had become more aggressive after they started fenbendazole. And so there are a lot of ways, which she lists in her article, that fenbendazole can make cancer more aggressive. And I just included a few of them here because I could, list them all. It activates AFT3, which promotes colorectal cancer metastasis. It upregulates IL-8, promoting cancer cell migration and aggressiveness. It decreases connexin 32, which is it's something that helps keep intestinal cells connected. So it's like glue. It sounds like it in its name, connexin, connect, keeps cells connected. And when, so it's like the sticky glue between the cells, and when the cells separate, then the cancer can get through into the bloodstream from the intestinal, through the intestinal wall into the bloodstream, and it will metastasize. It can metastasize to other organs in the body. So connexin 32 helps prevent colorectal cancer. So when you have a decrease of it, that's bad news. Fenbendazole also upregulates P450, which at higher levels indicates a poor prognosis of colorectal cancer and decreases your ability to detox. So mebendazole, Jody's found, is certainly less risky than fenbendazole. Fenbendazole is it's the veterinarian deworming agent. Mebendazole is for humans, but it is pro-inflammatory, which is not good for cancer. So one last note from Jody on the subject: are we missing something? So she said, I believe we are targeting bacteria because bacteria use all the same fuels as cancer. Each bacterium prefers a different fuel source. I also believe it is not complete because it doesn't contain methionine and a lot of other amino acids known to fuel cancer cells and bacteria. So again, Jody is a researcher. Her husband had colorectal cancer, and he was able to heal from it with surgery, IV vitamin C, I believe he did, and the square one diet and protocol. After his blood sugar, his fasting blood glucose was about 110 before he started the square one protocol, And after starting square one, which includes 8 carrot apple juices per day, 8 ounces each, his blood glucose went down to 70. So it's like counterintuitive. He started drinking more sugar, like, but these are plant sugars. And as we saw before, uh, there are substances in carrots that actually cut off the fuel supply to cancer cells. So a plant is more than just the macronutrients. Is it fat, protein, carbohydrates? You know, you might have heard, you know, cut down on sugars, even if it's plant-based. Cut back on fruit if you have cancer. But I don't believe that anybody needs to do that. Maybe if you have blood sugar issues and you juice and um, you know, you feel maybe more jittery, maybe you just need an adjustment period. And you know, just monitor it. If it lasts more than a couple weeks, if it lasts a few months and you notice that your blood sugar gets super high at a really unhealthy level, then you could, you know, have less fruits. But in general, fruits are really good for you. And so Jody has this theory that bacteria are a major cause to or contributor to cancer development, and it is documented. It is studied to a degree. I believe that bacteria, viruses, and fungi can certainly contribute to cancer development. And quick personal share: I was a diver, so I walked on pool decks a lot with bare feet, where there's a lot of water and moisture, and I got plantar warts, and I believe that's because my immune system was suppressed from stress and poor diet. And then, you know, then I got cancer, of course. I don't think it was just the virus, but then after I started the Gerson therapy and juicing a lot of carrots and apples and leafy green vegetables and cruciferous veggies, I noticed like somewhere along the line that I didn't have these plantar warts anymore. They stopped developing. And, you know, I had struggled with that for a while off and on. But anyway, I believe that the diet helped to eliminate that virus, and you know, I healed from the cancer after that. So I think there is definitely something there with viruses and bacteria. If you think about the Rife machine helped people to heal from cancer, and that's based on electromagnetic frequency, and you could dial or refine, tune the machine to different bacterial frequencies and kill the bacteria that way, and then heal from cancer. There's also the PEMF machines, pulse electromagnetic frequency. It's similar. Um, there's um, there's at least one study, there are probably more, about PEMF and cancer and how PEMF can help to decrease someone's cancer burden. So it's very interesting. And the same, oh, you know what? Another thing I read recently in my human physiology textbook from college is that bacteria thrive on iron, and cancer cells thrive on iron also. And so I mentioned that to Jody, and she's like, oh, there you go. You know, further evidence that cancer is related to bacteria. So she's really adamant about you know, this single source cause for cancer. And of course, other things contribute to cancer, like when you're stressed, you suppress your immune system, and then you are more likely to get cancer, but at the same time, it makes you more vulnerable to bacterial infection. So it's to be further proven, and I'm sure we'll find more things to support that. Personally, I don't know if that's the whole picture. It could be. And I'm looking forward to seeing what research comes out of it, but we'll see. So now, so I hope that has helped to clarify, you know, inform you about what is all the talk about cancer metabolic pathways, what are some of the pathways, and how can we block those pathways with natural substances and potentially off-label drugs.